Okay, hello. It's Maria Tabane again. I'm doing another lesson today, and today we're moving on to supra-segmentals. So far we've been looking at segments, okay? Consonants and vowels as individual segments. And supra, we're actually now moving above the segment, and we're looking at how those segments are organised into larger structures. And the first structure we have to deal with is the syllable. So in this lesson, I'm just going to outline the structure of the syllable and go through a few ways that we classify syllables, which includes looking at moras and syllabic weight. We look at open and closed syllables. And once we get to words that have more than one syllable, we'll be looking at something called the maximum onset principle in this lesson, MOP. So let's start with syllable structure. So I'll just write S at the top for syllable. Sometimes you will see the Greek letter sigma used for the syllable. For now I won't use that, but just be aware that sometimes you might see that being used. But for now I'll just write syllable. And the syllable is broken up into a onset and a rhyme. And that is quite literally rhyme, as you know, rhyming from primary school. You'll see that in the tick, what that's all about. The rhyme, however, is broken up further into a nucleus and a coda. Okay, so for now I've written those out in full, but later on I might just write SORNC. Okay, so when in English all syllables have a vowel, and the vowel always goes in the nucleus. Okay, so if I have a word like at, I go at into the nucleus, and then my t goes into the coda. Okay, so that's at. And we would call this a VC syllable for vowel consonant. Okay, so I'm not going to use that terminology too much, but it's actually terminology you'll see a fair bit. At would be a VC syllable. Okay, I really want to focus on the structure. All right. However, syllables actually prefer to have an onset. Very, very strong preference for syllables to have an onset. And so we could put an onset into this word, and we could make a word like cat, as in pussycat. Okay, so there's cat. All right, and that would then be a CVC syllable, consonant, vowel, consonant. Okay, so again, I don't want to be focusing on that. I really want to be focusing on the structure. And there's a couple of important things we need to say about this syllable structure. Even though syllables prefer to have an onset, very, very strong preference for syllables to have an onset, we actually ignore the onset when it comes to classifying syllables in terms of open and close and in terms of moras. Okay, so this is what's called a closed syllable. So this is a closed syllable because it has a coda. Open and closed is simply about whether or not the consonant has a coda. Nothing else. All right, so that's pretty simple. Okay, if I, yeah, all right. Let me just quickly draw you another syllable over here. And this time I won't write things out in full. I know I'm going to run out of space with this, unfortunately. It's one of the evils, I guess, of just having one board to work with. If I were to do another syllable, and I'll just go syllable, onset, rhyme, and then nucleus. And, I might make that a little bit higher, sorry. Just make it a fraction higher. Syllable, onset, rhyme, and nucleus coda. I might have a word like car, as in car goes vroom vroom. There's car, and there I've got my vowel has to go into the nucleus, R, and I'm actually giving it 2 slots because it's a long vowel. I'll talk about that in a tick. But car, as in vroom vroom car, doesn't have a coda. That would be a CV syllable, consonant vowel, and it's an open syllable. Okay, so this is an open syllable. Okay, and that's CV. Alrighty, because it's just consonant vowel. All right. Okay, so that's our first way we classify syllables as to whether they're open or closed. All right, so I could close this syllable by putting a consonant in there, cart, as in horse and cart, but I'll leave it as an open syllable for now. All right. Okay, so the other way we classify syllables is through syllabic weight, and for this we need to count something called moras. And again, for moras, we just ignore the onset. The onset just doesn't matter, and this time we're not paying attention just to the coda, we're also paying attention to the nucleus. So in the mora, what we do is we count the slots in the rhyme. Okay, so for instance over here I could count one mora. I'm going to write a little Greek symbol mu here, but I might not keep writing that. We can just count them 1 and 2. So 2 slots in the coda, and 2 slots in the rhyme, sorry, 1 in the nucleus, 1 in the coda. And here I've also got 2 slots in the rhyme. Okay, I've got, oh damn it, sorry, 1 mora and another one. It's just a slot, okay, it's a long vowel. I could have written K, as in the girl's name K, or the letter K, and that would be like this. It would be the diphthong A, and that way we've got 2 slots, 1 for each component of the diphthong. Okay, so it's still the vowel that's going into the nucleus. Okay, but because it's a long vowel, a diphthong is a long vowel, it gets 2 slots and it counts as 2 moras. If we'd gone back to our, oh, Kate's not a word, but if I'd gone back to cart, our example of cart before, okay, there we go, that would be suddenly 3 moras. Okay, so I'll just write that down there for you. So we've got here we've got 2 moras at the moment, 1, 2, and here we've got 3 moras, 1, 2, 3 in cart. All right, so okay, now let me just make a little point here that's very relevant for English. If I got rid of the coda in cat and we were left with cat, only 1 mora, you know that that isn't a legitimate word in English. There is no possible word in English. You could never have a word like cat or ni or cot or met. Okay? So in English, our minimal word has to contain 2 moras. It could be a consonant plus a vowel, which is what we had before. Sorry, a vowel plus a consonant, as in cat. That would be fine. Okay. You can still see that if I cover it up, can't you? That doesn't work. Yep. Or we could have a vowel plus a consonant is a legitimate word of English, or we could just have a long vowel. Okay, that's also a legitimate word of English, but it can't just be a short vowel, because a short vowel is only 1 mora. Okay, so a long vowel is 2 moras, and suddenly car is a legitimate word of English. So many languages pay attention to syllabic weight. We would call this a light syllable. Okay, just 1 mora. And 2 moras, we would say it's a heavier syllable, heavy syllable. Okay, many languages pay attention to the number of moras in the syllable for their minimal word requirements. What is the minimal possible word in the language? Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit of typology there. So you know, equally another very simple example might be the word I. So that doesn't have an onset. Just do I here, as in me, myself, I. It's a diphthong, so we get 2 slots. That means it's 2 moras, don't worry about the symbol I'm using, that doesn't matter. I'll just say it's 2 moras. But we don't have a coda, okay? So that's an open syllable. I, as in me, myself, I. Okay, so yeah, and we can get quite complicated in our onsets and our codas in English. So we could have a word like sixths, s, is my onset, e, nucleus, and then I can have, let me write out sixths, hang on, six, oh, I can't even spell phonetically at the moment. 6, as in the number 6, and then 6th, and then 6th, plural. So how many slots have I got in there? 1, 2, 3, 4 moras. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 moras. No, 5. 5 plus the nucleus. So that's 5 moras there, okay? But it's still a closed syllable. It only needs one consonant in the coda to be a closed syllable. Okay, in reality, languages don't really count past 2 or 3 moras. They sort of stop counting at 2 or 3. But for the purposes of this class, just to show that we're understanding what the mora is, that it's only what occurs in the rhyme, we're going to count all of them. So we'll say this has 5 moras there. Okay, I'll just yeah, I'll rub this out. So that's 6. We can also, you know, have quite complex onsets in English. So we could have, I'll just get rid of that again, sorry. Okay. We could have a word like strong, okay? So that would be s-t-r. So all of a sudden we've got 3 onsets there. S-t-r, o, coda, ng. Okay, strong. So we've got 2 moras here, 2 moras, and it's a closed syllable. Okay, the 2 moras, o, ng, and it's closed because it has a coda. But it's got 3 slots in the onset. English is quite permissive as to what it allows in the onset and what it allows in the coda. We could even have a word like strengths. So we could have s-t-r, e, ng, k, th, s. I don't know if you think that there's a k in strengths. That would probably be an excrescent stop. If you remember, we briefly mentioned that in a class on phonological processes. But anyway, let's just say that the k is in there. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moras and 4 slots in the coda. So it's closed, and we have 3 slots in the onset, but that doesn't matter. Okay, we don't count that. We just say there's 3 slots in the onset, and we would say that that is a CCCV CCCC syllable. Okay, so I'm not going to insist on this, even though it's used a lot, because it's very easy to understand. It's not a problem. This is the bit that's really important. And, you know, it's not just minimal word requirements that pay attention to syllabic weight. Stress can pay attention to syllabic weight as well. We're not going to have time to go into that, but in particular our words of Latin origin in English are very sensitive to the syllabic weight, how many moras there are in a segment as to whether or not, how many moras there are in the rhyme, in the syllable, as to whether or not a particular syllable is stressed. So we will deal with stress in a little tick. All right, so that's the basics. I will just say very quickly as well that we definitely, we do like to have a vowel in the nucleus, but you will get languages where consonants can go into the nucleus. Don't worry if you don't get this, but you might get an example like prst, the Croatian word for finger, and in that case the r goes into the prst. The r goes into the nucleus. Okay, so that's Croatian, the word for finger. And in that case what we do is we write a little symbol underneath the consonant to say that it's a syllabic consonant, meaning that it's gone into the nucleus. There's no other vowel that goes in there. All right. I don't want to get bogged down in that, but because in English we always say that we have a vowel in the nucleus, even if it's a schwa vowel. All right, so okay, let's just ignore that for a bit. The other important thing we do need to deal with is what happens when more than one syllable goes into a word. So I'll just get rid of this, and that's when we use something called the maximum onset principle. So I'm going to have to get rid of this again because I'm going to have to start doing 2 syllables. All right, so I'll just, always very hard to rub this if it's been on for longer than a few moments. Okay. Okay, so what happens when we have a word that has more than one syllable? So if we have a word like athlete, and write the long vowel T. Okay, so let me see if I can draw this properly. Well, so first of all, the easiest thing to do is to just go through and first put in the nucleus. I always find that an easy thing to do. So let's do 2 slots for our long vowel, 1 for our short vowel, and that's great. Okay, and then clearly this is going to be a coda. That's not hard to understand, and that forms a rhyme. Great. Okay, so what we then need to do, we've got 2 syllables. We go from the right edge here. Right edge means the end of the word. We go backwards till we meet our first consonant. Can a word in English begin with L? Yes, it can. Great. Keep going along. Can a word in English begin with Thl? No, it can't. Therefore, we put our boundary there. There's our dot marking our boundary. And so this goes into the onset of the first syllable, of this syllable, sorry. And this therefore goes into the coda of the other syllable, and that forms a rhyme. And there's our next syllable. Now look, at the moment I'm just going to join these straight up into a word to keep things simple, but later on we're going to learn that we've got another level in between the syllable and the word. All right, something called a foot. So yeah, that's pretty easy, athlete. All right, let's try another one. What else did I want to say about that? So that's the maximum onset principle. We put as many consonants as we can into the onset. All right, that's what it's about. It's about finding boundaries between syllable boundaries in the middles of words. Okay, I think you'd all be pretty comfortable with that. Athlete. All right, let's do another one. Let's do minstrel. Whee. Might write a little bit lower so I don't keep running out of space. Oops, daisy. Okay, so minstrel, an old-fashioned word for a musician. Min-s-t-r-l. Okay, so let's start with just putting our nucleus in for our vowels. Minstrel, nucleus in for the vowel. And this is clearly a coda, so that's easy, and they will form a rhyme. Great. All right, and this is clearly an onset. Okay, onset. Okay, let's do that. Right, so now we go through from the right edge of the word, we go backwards. Can a word begin with R? Yep, okay. Can a word begin with tr in English? Yes, it can, that's fine. Can a word begin with str in English? Yep, that's fine too. Can a word begin with nstr in English? No. Therefore, our boundary is here. We do the little dot. This goes into the coda. Forms the rhyme with a nucleus. Up they go to form a syllable. That means that s-t-r is our onset. It's our onset. It joins up with the rhyme to form a syllable. And there we go to form a word. Again, I'm missing the level of the foot here. Okay. Foot goes between syllable and word. We'll do that in another class. Right, so that's a nice and easy one. Okay. It's not a... It's not a foolproof method, I wanted to say. Sometimes your intuitions might not quite fit in with this. I'll give you an example of that. So let's consider a word like singer, as in a person who sings a song. Singer. Okay, and let's mark our vowels as the nucleus, nice and easy. Okay, can a word in English begin with ng? No, it can't. Okay, we don't have any words that begin with ng in English. You know that. Yet I bet that most of you would have really been inclined to say that you break that word up into sing. I doubt anyone would have said it's sing. All right, but sticking with the maximum onset principle. What do you do? So it's a tricky one. Actually, I think I don't want to solve it. You know what? I'm going to go against the maximum onset principle here. Well, sorry, we'll just pretend that that's... I'll turn that off. You know, it's actually given me time to think. Sorry about that phone ringing. I should have turned it off beforehand. But maximum onset principle would, I think we're just going to... I don't know what to do. So I'm going to say if we're following the maximum onset principle, a word can't begin with ng, and we'll put that into the coda and rhyme. And this nucleus also goes into a rhyme, and this is an onset, and they join up to form a syllable. This also goes up to a syllable, and then we're up to the word. Okay, now that's probably going against most of your intuitions, all right? So I'm going to rub that off, and I don't like it, but that's strictly following the maximum onset principle. I don't like it. And the reason I don't like it is syllables do like to have onsets, but we're going to follow the maximum onset principle in this class, okay? Sorry about that little bit of confusion. It is what it is. Syllables definitely like to have onsets. All of the world's languages have CV syllables, all of them. Not all languages have VC syllables like we have in English. We have the VC syllable at, for example, or just a V syllable, I, okay. Not all languages will allow that, but all languages will allow CV syllables, so languages do like to have onsets. And baby's first babbles are CV syllables as well. So CV syllables are very powerful. Languages like to have onsets. But in terms of in the middle of a word, we're, for this class, going to be using the maximum onset principle for all its faults. I'm sorry if that last little bit confused you. I just wanted to tell you that there are problems with the maximum onset principle. And sometimes you can say that a particular consonant actually belongs to two syllables. There's evidence for that, and we can talk about that later on at high levels if you want to, but there's often strong evidence that syllables belong to consonants might belong to two syllables at the same time. But at this beginning level, we're just going to stick with the maximum onset principle. So I think that's all I wanted to cover from the basics. So we've got a few more things we need to do, and we actually need to look a little bit more at syllable structure and something called the sonority profile in the next little video. Okay,